What is up, guys? Lone Hawk here today, and welcome back to Overwatch. In today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different, something I think you guys are going to enjoy, because we're going to be talking about the Overwatch lore, and comparing it to the way Overwatch actually is in-game. In today's video, I'm going to be covering some hero abilities that do not match their lore. Basically, abilities that don't function the way they were in either the comics, the animated shorts, or somewhere else where Overwatch lore was provided. If you're still confused and you don't know what I mean, let's just jump into it right away with Hanzo's arrows. Now, we can all make the joke that in-game Hanzo shoots logs, whereas in the lore, he's supposed to shoot arrows. But there is actually a difference much larger than that actually occurs. In the animated short Dragons, Hanzo has the ability to guide his arrows. Whether he curves them or they have some sort of homing capabilities is unknown, but either way, they do not do that in-game. Thank God, Blizzard. It would be a nightmare. One possible explanation for this homing mechanic on his arrows is that they are possibly magnetic. Hanzo clearly doesn't like Omnics, which are made of metal, as he kills Omnics without hesitation. As you can see in the animated short Dragons, he shoots an Omnic right in the chest, but he still leaves the humans alive. He also attempts to kill Genji, probably assuming he's some sort of Omnic because of the way he looks. And Genji, having armor that's made of metal, would also be magnetic, or magnetic things would be attracted to him. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that Hanzo's arrows, according to the lore, have some sort of magnetic property or homing capabilities. This isn't the only way Hanzo's arrows differ, though. There's actually one more thing Hanzo's arrows do in the lore that do not occur in-game. I actually have a feeling this one may have actually been intended to be in the game originally. In one part of the animated short Dragons, Genji actually gets hit by one of Hanzo's arrows. He deflects it, but it still hits his sword, and in the process, it knocks Genji back a considerable distance. Given that there are a lot of abilities in Overwatch that have knockback capabilities, it wouldn't actually surprise me if Blizzard at one point intended Hanzo's arrows to have a little bit of knockback included in them. They're not in the game now, but it would have been something cool, and I'm actually curious to explore the possibility of it, because it might make Hanzo more viable, and you could balance him in a different way if he had a little bit more utility that way. Either way, in-game, Hanzo cannot curve his arrows, and they don't knock enemies back when you hit them with them, which is kind of interesting because that's the way they are in the lore. Let's move on to another hero. This one's actually a little bit different because it's not a certain ability or even a group of abilities. It's a whole hero's kit, and that kit is Reaper's. Reaper in-game plays absolutely nothing like his lore. It's actually kind of crazy how different they are. In-game, Reaper is a very close-range, low-mobility damage dealer. But in the animated shorts, he is quite the opposite. In these, his mobility rivals Tracer's, as he is constantly wraith forming everywhere and teleporting around at extremely high speeds. Every time Winston attempts to jump on him and tackle him, Reaper just disappears, vanishing into the shadows, only to reappear somewhere else. It's actually kind of crazy how fast he can move around. If Reaper had power like this in-game, the man would be unkillable, so it's a good thing Blizzard limited his abilities, although it does seem like they limited him in a way that doesn't really fit the original lore. He isn't really anything like they originally showed him in the cinematic trailer, which isn't probably a bad thing. They probably thought he was too similar to Tracer, having more than one extremely high mobility hero, although it would have been fun to kind of wraith form around, teleport everywhere very quickly, even if it would have meant a different kit. I don't know. I think that Reaper is probably more fun sounding than the current one, but I think the current one fits well into the game as far as a balance standpoint goes, so I'm not too disappointed. There is actually one more difference for Reaper that I'd like to talk about. One more way that he differs in the lore from the way he actually is in-game. His shotguns perform quite differently. In the Overwatch cinematic trailer, Reaper is seen shooting at enemies from very far away with some sort of explosive rounds, and when he uses his famous Death Blossom, he can actually hit enemies that are very far away, and his gun doesn't shoot shotgun rounds. It shoots regular bullets or maybe some sort of slug. This is very different from the way he performs in-game, where he can only shoot shotgun rounds, has no sort of grenades or explosive rounds like he does in the cinematic trailer, because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, he also drops grenades at one point, which is super cool, and his Death Blossom is very short range, unlike the cinematic trailer, where he is shooting at people that are just ridiculously far away, making a mess of everything from long range. Up next, we have a small one. We actually have a few small ones and then some speculation ones where I feel like the abilities don't perform the way they would actually in the lore. First, we'll talk about Tracer very briefly because, as I'm sure most of you know, Tracer cannot blink in vertical directions. She can only blink horizontally, where in the lore, she can blink up, down, left, right, and all around, which is quite different. You see this in all of her animated shorts, both the one with Widowmaker in it and the cinematic trailer. She can blink in multiple different directions, and that's obviously something we don't see in-game. Nothing too complicated there. The next one, though, I think is a little bit different. This one's about Widowmaker, and it's actually a change that could be potentially added to the game somehow to make her more viable. In her animated shorts, first of all, Widowmaker's grappling hook doesn't have a ridiculously long cooldown because obviously in the lore, cooldowns don't exist. But the cool thing about her grappling hook, the way that I think it's much better in the lore than it is in-game, is that she can hang from it. She can hang on the sides of buildings, just on areas where there's nowhere to stand. She can hang from buildings, and she can also hang off of buildings, as the cable actually holds her up. Now, these are two very cool things that I'm sure wouldn't be easy for Blizzard to implement, but they would be extremely cool. I'm not even sure how viable they'd be, but there's no denying it. They'd be cool to have in the game. Just a few more ways to make the game a little bit more like the lore. Bear with me, guys. This next one might be a little bit picky, and this one's about Lucio. We all know Lucio gives his speed boost and his healing boost with the power of his music, theoretically meaning any teammate that can hear the music can receive its benefits. However, in-game, it performs very differently. Not too differently, but kind of. If there's a wall between you and Lucio, you don't receive the effect. Even if there's like a window nearby, or it's just something very small between you guys, even though you can still hear his music, you do not receive the effect. Like I said, this one is picky, but it does exist, so I decided to include it. And with that, that concludes our video for today. I'm not sure there are actually any other abilities that differ greatly between the in-game status of Overwatch and the lore. I'm sure I'll be able to get more as more lore is released, more animated shorts, and just more comics as well, because right now there aren't that many. But for now, that is everything. Leave a like if you enjoyed and tell me what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you guys all later. Lone Hawk, out.